If you thought Tom Holland was done as Spider-Man after No Way Home, you are sorely mistaken because really he was just getting started there. That was really the conclusion to his first trilogy, which in all reality is basically his whole origin of Spider-Man. He didn't become the full true Spider-Man until the end of No Way Home. With that beautiful ending scene, the final swing, that chef's kiss suit, beautiful. I loved it. So Tom Holland is coming back. We're doing a whole second trilogy, the college trilogy, as many of us are calling it. And that will, of course, kick off with Spider-Man 4. Spider-Man 4 doesn't have an official title yet, so for now, we're just calling it Spider-Man 4. But it is being said that this film is going to start production at some point next year, which is really exciting. So the film's still years away, but with that news, of course, we are going to start getting updates and more information about this film. There's been a whole bunch of rumors swirling around about what this film could possibly be, mainly talking about the villains, which, again, the rumors have been kind of all over the place, but one thing that I can say we could probably take as confirmation, because it's coming from a fairly reliable source, is that Michael Keaton will return as the Vulture. Daniel RPK put out this report the other day. Daniel RPK, of course, very reliable scooper, especially when it comes to trailer news, but he gets some regular movie-related news like this, fairly accurate most of the time. So I fully believe that this is true. And you may be questioning, okay, but the last time we saw Michael Keaton's Vulture was in the Morbius post-credit scene. So how is he now back in the MCU? He traveled to a different universe. Well, here's my theory. Kevin Feige's just going to completely ignore that Morbius post-credit scene. I mean, it can be easily explained. If you watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, there was literally an easy explanation right there. And for all we know, this could have been why they even did the Vulture post-credit scene in the first place. This Across the Spider-Verse movie was supposed to explain that, I guess, maybe, hopefully. But of course, in that movie, we saw that a bunch of villains were being misplaced out of time. That we're assuming is due to what happened in No Way Home. So Michael Keaton's Vulture is just another character that got slipped into a different universe. And then after that, the Spider team from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Spider Society, they just put him back in his original timeline, and he's back in the MCU. That's my best explanation for it. Could also we saw, of course, Donald Glover as a live-action version of the Prowler in Across the Spider-Verse. That could possibly even be the MCU's version of Prowler that we were introduced to in Spider-Man Homecoming as well. So he could be back in the MCU, and he could already be Prowler now. So that would be really cool to see him return in Spider-Man 4 as well. But this makes sense. This makes sense that Michael Keaton will be back as Vulture, something I'm really excited about. Because there's just so many loose threads left with this character. Last time, well, again, not really the last time we saw him, because we saw him in Morbius, but I try to not think about that. But in Homecoming, of course, we got a post-credit scene between him and Matt Gargan, played by Michael Mando, which is another character that has major loose ends left open there, because there's a conversation between the two. Adrian Toomes, he wasn't willing to give up Spider-Man's identity, but then Matt Gargan was like, I got some boys on the outside. You want to slit his head open and throw his head in the dryer and all this stuff. And it was clearly setting up some sort of Sinister Six. So to have Vulture involved in that Sinister Six, I think is fantastic. Now, this is the news coming from Daniel RPK, is that Michael Keaton will return as the Vulture in Spider-Man 4. So there's that. But we have some other updates on this film as well, because after this came out, we got some kind of additions to this story from Film Odyssey on Twitter, who is also a fairly reliable source. I believe this, but of course, as always, take it with a grain of salt. Consider it as rumor for now, until we get official confirmation or anything like that. But they were saying that Michael Mando will return as Scorpion as well, which is, again, another thing we can assume seems pretty obvious and also makes a lot of sense. And I believe we had heard actual confirmation about that before as well. But yeah, he's back. Now, who's going to be the main villain of this movie, though? Because we got Vulture, we got Scorpion. Are either of them going to be the main villain? Well, according to Film Odyssey, no. Both these characters will be in the film, but the true villain of the movie will be Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, which personally I think is really exciting. Now, I don't actually think he'll be the main villain of this movie. And as Film Odyssey goes on to state in further tweets after this, they're building him up to be kind of an overarching villain of this whole second trilogy. So he's, we've heard plenty of stuff about him being kind of the behind the scenes, kind of the Thanos, the big bad overarching villain of the street level side of the MCU. Obviously, we know he's going to be in Echo. He's going to be in Daredevil Born Again. And now the Spider-Man trilogy as well, and who knows what else. We're going to be building up to something really, really big there. And to me, that's really exciting. And Film Odyssey did confirm that the Sinister Six is going to be happening in this college trilogy. So we will build up to that, I'm assuming, in Spider-Man 6. So we'll get whatever villains we get in Spider-Man 4. We'll get whatever villains we get in Spider-Man 5. And then Spider-Man 6, we will get Tom Holland Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six. And Film Odyssey did go on to state that Kingpin will not be a part of the team, but he will be the one funding it, which I think is fantastic. In some versions, it's Norman Osborn funding the team. In some versions, it's just Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, just creating the group himself. But I think Kingpin, again, if you're trying to build him up, this is a fantastic move to make, and is actually exactly what I pitched after No Way Home came out. I did a video about my predictions of what I would do with this college trilogy, so of course go check out that video, but I definitely talked about that there. And that idea is so beautifully presented in this perfect display by Marvel Legends action figures that I found on Instagram. Like, this looks great. You got the Sinister Six being funded by the Kingpin. And of course, if we're getting the Sinister Six, that brings up the question of who's going to be on the team? I would assume Vulture. I would assume Scorpion. Hopefully Mysterio can come back, because I'm pretty sure he faked his death again at the end of Far From Home. He's got to be alive, or at least some other version of him out there. Again, Donald Glover's Prowler is out there. Shocker's out there. I'd love to see some new villains introduced, like Rhino, like Mr. Negative. I mean, we got Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven, but that's in a different universe. Or are they going to cross over? Are we going to get Morbius in here somehow? Are we going to get Tom Hardy's Venom in here somehow? I don't know. It's all over the place. But definitely there's a lot of interesting possibilities for this that I'm really, really excited about. So, guys, of course, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these updates on the MCU Spider-Man 4? Michael Keaton is back as the Vulture, Michael Mando is back as Scorpion, and Wilson Fisk is going to be playing a pretty large role as the Kingpin of crime. And Sinister Six is coming in Spider-Man 6. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything goes on in the Marvel life.